Alright, 5R55E. We're doing an LS kit, which is a kit with clutches, filter, pump bushing, stator bushing, which is sent the wrong one, intermediate and overdrive bands, overdrive scrag. They did not send my overdrive planet, so we'll see when that thing shows up. We'll get going on this one. Alright, on your forward drum, these are square cut seals. Put lots of lube on here, and do tend to go in usually fairly easily, but since they're square cut, they are a little bit, sometimes a little bit more difficult than others. And if you'll notice on the earlier models, the Overdrive drum and direct drum, the pistons were the same size. And when we went to the 4R55, they made the seal bigger on the overdrives, and then on the 5R55s it's usually larger also. Well, it's always larger on that, but they usually have a sub kit for the different lip seal that comes in it. Depending on whose kit you get. Trac, that's the way they do it. And I really like Trac kits. So our lips can face up towards us on both the direct and the overdrives. Make sure it's not rolled anywhere. Lots of lube again. And there again, the bigger piston is going to go in our overdrives. Kind of twist it around a little bit while you're pushing down, and it should drop in. There we go. There we go. Alright, our forward drum is the big springs. The overdrive and the direct drums are these smaller springs. Okay, normal configurations that I see, the forward drum always has all the clutches in it, all the springs in it. This is your retainer. This is your snap ring. If you look at the tips of the snap ring, they have a taper to them. You want the shortest taper up, and you want the opening to be in right there. So we're going to put the opening right there. Now on your overdrive drums, what I typically see on your, like on your 444s, they'll typically have 3 springs. It'll look like this right here. It'll have 3 springs, skip 1, and it's normally like that. The other way I've seen them is to where it'll have half and half. I'll do that. Normally on your directs, it's the half and half, where it's like that. Mostly on the 5R55s, I see all the springs in all the drums. So that's typically how it goes. If you get a spring cage that looks like that and that, this one goes in a direct drum. This one goes in the overdrive drum. And we're doing the same thing. The taper of our tips is up. And here again, we're going to put the opening away from an opening. We're going to put it over in that area right there. Alright, in our forward drum we got this cushion, rubber cushion, goes down in the groove. Now our clutches are directional. You'll notice that they got these lines going this way, and it should be printed top on the clutch, like right there. I don't pay attention to the word top. I look at the directions. That way if it ever gets misprinted, I don't get screwed. I haven't seen any misprinted yet, but that does not mean that it's not going to happen. So I get all the directions go in the same direction. The way I remember these is forwards are left, the rest are right. So there's our forwards. Here's our overdrives. You can see the word top again, but we're looking for the pointing to the right. The direct clutches they gave us are not directional. Normally they are, and you want them pointing to the right. So we don't have to worry about that on this one, but if you have directional clutches, make damn sure they're going the right way, or your transmission will slip. So our forwards are going to go in here. And the only difference between these trannies, the 4R44, the 4R55, and the 5R55 are clutch capacity and torque converter stall speed. So other than that, they are the same unit. Let's see, these are our overdrives. Pointing to the right. Normally they give you 3 in the kit. I don't know why. I've never seen a 3 clutch drum, so I don't know if they even exist. I'm going to have to go find me a steel. Alright, let me go find me a steel, but in the meantime, you can see how the pressure plate is burnt on this side. We can just flip it over. Forward drum we have sealing rings. They are plastic. I'm on now. Here we go. Be careful when you're putting them on. You don't want to spread them apart too far, because it will break the back of them and you may not notice, but they will not seal properly. So our sealing rings are going to go together just like so. There we go. We got sealing rings just like that on the center support. Alright. So I'm going to put this together sorta right here, so we got a close-up view so you can see what goes on to what. This is a big fat bearing, goes here. This drum is going to sit here. And a bearing like this, and go on the top of the forward drum. This bearing is going to sit there. This washer is going to go on top of here. This bearing is going to sit right there. This planet. This drum, or the sun shell, they do fit this loose. Don't worry about that. There are no bushings. This snap ring is going to hold this planet into the rear ring gear. Rear band drum. This bearing here is going to sit on top. Ahead of myself here. This bearing here is going to sit on here. And this oil slinger is going to go right there. We got this snap ring with the taper of our tips is going to face up towards us. This little bearing is going to sit right there. Be very careful with this thing. It's very delicate. From the other side of the case is going to come our output shaft and our park gear. This washer is going to sit just on the back of the case. I'll show you how it goes. Alright, our planet has not shown up yet, so we can't do that. We'll go ahead and get our servos ready. And big O-ring on the outside. The fattest O-ring that you can find goes right here. Okay, the O-rings that go on our servo covers are the same regardless of what letter you have. You can see we have a ZC and an AB on this particular unit. The ZC is the overdrive and the AB is the intermediate. Personally, I wouldn't go below an AB. Is the smallest I would put in the intermediates. AB is the smallest I would put in the overdrives. Okay, our ZC is the big one. Regardless of which one you put, this particular one, they got the same springs in both of them, but if you have one that's heavier than the other one, the heavy one goes in the intermediates and the lighter one goes in the overdrives. And on your sprag here, just get you a punch that fits in the hole. Just pop that out. I know they sent me the overdrive sprag. Let me locate that sucker. The brass is going to face up. You can see these little tabs right here. We're going to have to push them in and get them started around, and then right down in here in the bottom there's a groove that it pops into. So just get you a screwdriver. Let's see if I can get this over here. This is going to be a little bit more difficult to do. Maybe this will work. Just kind of start it in. You don't want to get too far down, and then just find the tabs and push them in. Get your little sprag pieces to kind of push in and just pop it in. Alright, can't do the pump right now because I want to see if that bushing is going to work. I don't have my planet, so we can't put that together. I guess let me go clean up the valve body and we'll do. Alright, some things to go over here on the valve body. This little keeper right here and this little keeper right here are going to come out, so just go ahead and take them out before you wash the valve body. The rest of them, it depends on how aggressive you get with blowing the passages out. I would be careful blowing all this out. Your other keepers that are L-shaped like that, I mean there's one almost in every keeper on the ends, but there's an L-shaped one here, 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 and here. So make sure that those go back in there. This is your normal check ball locations. If you got a delay in reverse, you can take this one out, and I used to take this one out on every rebuild, and then I started having people coming back and they were complaining about harsh reverse, and it wasn't harsh, but it was a little firmer than most, so I just put it back in now, and if I get a complaint of a delay in reverse, I'll take that ball out first. Another thing that you can do for delay in reverse is to pull this whole valve line up out right here, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have the keeper here, the plug, a valve, and a spring, then this L-shaped keeper, another bore plug, a spring, and then the valve. You want to put a 7/32 or a 218 thousandths check ball in the end of that valve right there, and then put the spring on top of it. All you're basically doing is blocking the valve. If you don't want to put check ball in it, find some other way to block the valve. I think I read somewhere one time that you can make a pin that's 500 and some odd thousandths, 560s, 570s, somewhere in there. Just put a check ball in it, block it if you got a delay reverse. If you got a delay forward, this little spring right here, you can take that out. Your EPC limit valve will look like this, except for it'll have a silver cup right here. It'll go right there. If this there's a hole right here, if there's not a hole right there, it doesn't take it. And let's see, always put this little plug back in, and don't modify it. If you look here, you see how the one that came in the kit is bigger. Don't put that in there. I always just go back with the original one that was in the valve body. And if you lose one, you're going to have to find one that's about that size, and I don't know. I'll see if I can find out what size this is supposed to be. It's pretty dadgum small. Well, I'll do that later. I'll put it in the description or something. We got to move on. Couple modifications that we need to do. Oh, the EPC and the lockup solenoids. The 95 through 96 models, the lockup solenoid needs to be those numbers right there. That number. 97 up is that number. And 95 through 96 EPC solenoid is green. And if you raise this one up, you'll be able to see that 97 up is red. See in there the color of it. Another thing that you can do if you keep getting lockup codes is to pull this whole valve line up out right here, and you're going to drill down this passage right here. You're going to drill that 62 thousandths. You're going to go all the way to the other side, and once you drill that 62 thousandths, you're going to need to find an aluminum plug, and you're going to plug that hole right there. Only do that if you can't get rid of your lockup codes any other way. First thing to check is your solenoid. Make sure you got the right solenoid. Somebody hadn't swapped valve bodies on you or something, and you got the wrong solenoid, EPC and lockup solenoids in it. Make sure those are right. If you exhausted all your deals and you can't get rid of your lockup code, then I would do that. And this valve right here is your cooler bypass valve. You're going to want to take this thing out of here. You got this spring, you got this valve, and you see how the tip is out. If you can't push that back in, You might even take it over to the vise and see if you can get it to push back in. If you can't get it to push back in, just go grind it off in the grinder. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take the valve out, you're going to take this spring out, you're going to put the valves back in. Alright, so I put it in the vise and compressed it, and it still popped back out. So I'm going to go grind this down. And the hotter this gets, the more it's going to probably come out. So just keep grinding until you get it flush. Then you're going to put that valve back in. You're going to put a 1/4-inch check ball. You're going to put this back in, and it's going to push that in. And we're going to put our keeper in. Alright, there we go. And I'm going to get this back here where I can work on it. Alright, there we go. Now, this hole right here, we want to drill that out to 60 thousandths. That's going to help our lockup. Just kind of deburr that with something. Our valve body gaskets are horribly bad about blowing out, and they'll blow out right over in this area right here. We're going to use our lineup pins to kind of line this up. Our lineup pins are this one right here, and this one right here. These are our 330 Torx that hold the plate onto the valve body. Okay. Still don't have any parts, so we are at a standstill on the gas. One thing to do, these nuts usually get rusted onto here, so I'll go get these off, and then I'll wire brush these off the grinder and brush these up and get them ready. Alright, drive your bushing out the front. drive it out this way, it's going to leave a little ridge, which is okay if you take the ridge off, but if you don't take the ridge off, it's going to lock your pump up. So I'll just drive it out the front. The notches face up. Bushing in. You want to make sure that that is at least flush with that recess right there, or a little bit below it. Now I just drive the seal in flush. About all we can do with the pump until we get the bushing for our stator, because we got to have it to line up the torque converter. I use my torque converter to line up the pump. I guess I could use this tool would probably work, that comes in the Transgo 5R55W pumps. To line it up, that's what I use to line those up. It would probably work just fine for this, but I want to show you how you can do it with just the torque converter and not having this tool, because that's how I've always lined mine up and it's worked just fine. In the meantime, we've gotten our planetary. You want to make sure that this is not bent in any way. You got this bearing that's going to sit on the outside here. We got our ring gear. Oh, we got to get that. We got to dig that brass out of there. And just use a scribe, sharp pointed scribe. Make sure it's all out of there. And we're gonna put our planetary on. If your planetary does not want to go on, you're having trouble with it, and it just won't go, pull your snap ring off the back here, let your ring gear go down, put your hub on, and pull your ring gear back up, put your snap ring back on. On the early ones, the washer likes to eat up on the drum. It'll round this edge off right here, and it'll start rounding these teeth off in here. If that happens, you can flip the washer over. You can see where it's been riding. Just flip it over and the washer will work again, but you need to replace your drum. we go. And that's ready to assemble. I guess let me change camera angle, change batteries, and we'll stack it in the case. We can at least do that, have it ready to go when the pump bushing shows up, or stator bushing shows up. Alright. On the back side here, we got this washer. Got 2 tabs and a single tab. We want the 2 tabs to be up here, and a single tab at the 6 o'clock position. And we're going to put our park gear, our output shaft in. We'll flip this over. We got our band drum. Make sure it turns freely clockwise and locks counterclockwise. And put our rear ring gear. Make sure our bearings on there. And we got our snap ring. Make sure the taper of the tips is up. We got our snap ring pliers. Make sure we're all the way into the groove. Set this down. Make sure we got a pretty good view down into there. Now we can put our band in. We want the 2 feet up. We got our bearing and our slinger. And pull up on that band drum, and then there's a slot right down in the bottom of the case here. You stick a screwdriver in there, it'll hold it up for you. And put our planet in. I'm going to put our snap ring in. Now we can pull our screwdriver out. Got that bearing. Sun shell. Planet. Ring gear with the bearing, our brass top hat washer in the top. This bearing is going to sit on top. Our drum. Make sure it's all the way down. You get a nice solid metal sound. Our bearing. Our direct drum. Actually, go ahead and put our band anchor. You got the short pin and our band anchor, or band lever apply pin. Got our ply lever. Now we'll put our drum. If you haven't already put your planet together, you can just use your gear off of it. I just keep an extra one around. Getting cocked on me. Come on now. There we go. You get a nice solid metal sound on that. We're going to put our band in. We got our other apply pin. Easiest to hold the band over and then bring this in from the bottom of the case. And put your apply bolt in, adjustment bolt. Screw it in, don't screw it all the way in, but screw it in enough that everything's not going to come apart. Put our bearing in and put our support in. We got our bolts with our nut, 5mm. Just start it, don't stick it all the way in. We got our speed sensor, our 30 Torx bolt that holds it in. I always go ahead and plug it in so I don't forget. Go ahead and tighten that bolt down. And put our snap ring in. It's got a taper to it, and you want the taper up. Now we can go ahead and tighten down our 5mm bolt. Got another bearing. Grab your whole overdrive section. Just kind of grab it, set it on there, and tip it up and turn it into place. You got this piece that's going to go in the case right there. Got our long pin, our other lever, other piece. Our other band. Make sure and get that little tip of the band in that little slot. Here again, screw it in enough. Everything's not going to come apart, but you don't want it tight. Now, we can't go any further until we get our bushing, which won't be here till tomorrow. So that's about all we can do right now. We'll come back tomorrow. Okay, this is how I do my pumps on my A4LDs, 444s, 455s, 5R55s. Get the converter that I'm going to use. Put the bell housing on. Put my pump plate on. Put my pump gears on. Now there's a O-ring down inside this one. When you're looking at your pump gears, make damn sure that the hub hasn't beat this up so bad that the O-ring gets pinched in there. I'm going to get down in the groove. There we go. And just kind of mash it in there. Get you some lube. Lube this up. The beveled end is going to face down. Make sure you don't cut your O-ring. This is also going to help mash that O-ring down into the gear. Everything not wanting to work today. Yeah, let's get some more lube. Camera's kind of right in the way. Come on, baby. Usually it's not this tough. There we go. Alright. And there's a beveled edge and a squared edge. It's very hard to see, but the beveled edge is going to face up. You can take your stator, stick it on there. Stick your input shaft in. Put your bolts in. Line your plate up the best that you can. .40 Torx on the pump bolts. Now if your torque converter will, your bell housing will spin freely, you're good to go. Put your pump washer on. It's elective, so since we changed everything, we probably want to check it and make sure everything's okay. Get our O-ring on. Put our gasket on our case. And we'll come over here and we'll get our height gauge. Make sure everything's... let me take this out so it's not in my way. This is a universal height gauge. So however you want to check your height. Perfect. Line our gasket back up. Put our pump shaft back in. Our input shaft. And then we're going to drop our pump on. Oh, guess it would help to put our sealing rings on. Don't forget those. It might work a little bit better. It's going to be one of them days. In fact, I think I might take that gasket and put it on the pump. So anyway, that's put our sealing rings on, and they're going to do the same thing as the other ones. We want it that way. I'll go ahead and put my gasket here. All the pump bolts have a little recess right there, and they take an O-ring that sits on top. Just like so. $17 millimeters on the pump bolt. It's a solid ring. Now, the earlier ones had a straight cut, and it's okay to use it. I really prefer these. If you ever come across one that's scarf cut, which means it's cut at an angle, do not use that. So we're just going to stretch this out a little bit. And get it started onto there. And then we're just going to put a hose clamp on it to resize it down. Since I don't have the sizing tool. Alright, change camera angles and get this up on the table. Alright, we're gonna put our servos in. A little lube on our O-rings. Extra care is needed here. You don't want to cut your O-ring. I don't know what is up with today, but there we go. Nothing wants to work properly. Everything wants to fight. Alright, don't worry about the servo is down. Just make sure that your snap ring's all the way in. Alright. You know, 5/16 and 3/4. I'm gonna get our band adjustments. We're gonna crank these all the way in. It's gonna push our servo out. Crank it down pretty tight. Now the book calls for 2 to 2.5 turns. I do a turn and a half. Well, I need to put my nuts on there. Just hold the nut in stationary while you back the adjustment out, turn and a half. Crank that down right there. Turn and a half. Crank that down. Now, we're going to shoot air into there. Apply that a few times. Let's see how our adjustment came out. That's pretty good. Now we're going to see if it moves. Alright. That's still pretty good. I think we'll stay right there. Now, even though I've cranked down on that, I get a 3/4 socket. Just give them a tap. These band adjustments do like to come loose. Alright. And we can air check our forward and direct drum. Noisy thing off there. Alright, if you can get it out, there's a pin right here. Usually they are pretty hard to get out. Sometimes I can get it with those. Sometimes I can get it with these. Sometimes you can't get it at all. And it looks like it's going to be, can't get it at all. If you can get that pin out, it makes it easier. Since it's been like everything else today, it doesn't want to come out. Get your little pocket screwdriver. And this works better if the seal is not super old and stuck to the case. And if it doesn't want to come, just give it a little tap on one side. Kind of breaks it loose a little bit. And you're probably going to bend the crap out of your little pocket screwdriver. But it does work. Let me get a different one. It's almost there. It wants to. Just being difficult. There you go. Come on out. There we go. Get you a little bit of sandpaper and knock that rust off of there. It's 320, somewhere in there is okay. And get your lever seal. Give it some lube. You want to, forgot to show you that there's a kind of a recessed side and then a flat side. The flat side faces out. There we go. Just get a socket that fits over it and tap that down in there. Alright, you can get down in here and make sure our band is centered. We don't want it floated off to one side. I got some line-up bolts that I've made out of valve body bolts. I just cut the heads off of. Let me remember which one's what. I think it's this one. Our line-up bolts, or holes, off of our valve body. Actually, I guess it's this one back here. There we go. Move our wiring harness out the way. Make sure our manual valve's lined up on our linkage. There we go. Yeah, leave those in there. And put our servo down. You see there's a hooked end in this end here. This sits with the straighter edge. The two straighter edges are out here. Same way with our plate. Our 4 shortest bolts go on the cover. Okay, we got 2 that are the next shortest. You see how it's shorter than the mid one. It goes over here and the other one goes on your detent. The next ones go here. Okay, our longest ones go here. Let's get some of these out of our hand. Now, make it easier to find the other. And this is our filter bolt. We don't want to tighten that down yet. Alright, where are you? There he is. This one here goes down here. Like I said, the longest ones go there. The next ones go everywhere else. This out now. 10 millimeters. Work from the inside out. detent on now. If I can get my bolt out. Oh, come on. Put our detent on, and you want the curved end down. Don't put it in park because it'll make it easier to put your tail housing on if you don't have it in park. Alright, loop this up around. Get this on. I think that's a 20 Torx. No. Alright, it's 15 Torx. Here's a 15 Torx down inside your EPC solenoid. If you get this thing together and you got a 2-3 flare that you can't get rid of, you can crank that in clockwise 3/4 of a turn. But don't do it unless you just have to. There's a little hole here and here for your tabs on your harness to fit into. Take our filter bolt back out. A lot of your filter kits will give you a new bolt. I don't find the need for it. There's a fat O-ring. Actually, both of these are fat. This one here, you need to make sure that it fits nice and snug in the hole. Alright, seem to be okay. Alright. Here we go. I just put the original bolt back in. Let's see, our pan. Getting down to the wire now. Down inside your cooler line fittings, there's O-rings. Make sure that they're in there. And these are looking pretty rough. Just kind of mash them in there. Don't get too aggressive. You don't want to screw them up, but they do need to be flat. Okay, I think this kit The O-rings are too big. I may have to go find some. These are not fitting properly. They look way too big. I don't like them. I will go find some others after I get done here. Your bushing for your tail housing, I had to go ahead and replace this one. It's getting pretty worn right up in here, but you see there's a lube hole. The lube hole lines up right over here. Our park actuator, put our deal in. Spring's going to go underneath like so. Spring's going to catch right there. This is your plate that tells you what your tranny is. It's got all the codes on it. I stick it on this bolt right here. Let's see if we can get a good enough view of this. I stick a couple bolts in it and put them here so that I can move the actuator. This little dill back here, you can throw this away if you want to. It doesn't do anything. That's for at the factory when it's coming down the assembly line. It plugs off the output shaft so it doesn't leak, because they're full of fluid. And once you push the drive shaft in, it just shoves that forward. There we go. Our two studs at the top. $17 millimeters. And get our two speed sensors. We got our short one, goes here. And our longer one goes here. Now, if you come across a unit that has a speed sensor up here, leave the sensor in, but take the wiring off, cut the wires, splice the wires together, put shrink wrap on them, and bypass it. .30 torques on here. It's our filler tube O-ring, and this one is